Welcome. And I want to thank Susan for joining me today. It is a journey, isn't it?
Most
We
definitely.
we take this journey on not even really knowing what we are getting into. But I wanted Susan to be able to share with listeners today about her journey. The foundational pieces are what we all need in order to bring ourselves back to health. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking. I want Susan to be able to share. So Susan, I'm just going to ask you some questions. We just have a conversation and see what comes for you.
Okay.
First things I want to ask you is, before you found True Health and the Achieve True Health program, what were you dealing with? What motivated you to look for a solution or a way to deal with these things? What were you dealing with?
Well, I have had chronic strep my whole life as a kid. And I went through some major changes, including a move to the East Coast from the West Coast. And about 3 months after I got here, I had foot surgery and I wasn't healing as quickly from that as I expected to. And then a couple months later, I was just really sick. And I thought maybe because I'd moved to the East, I had Lyme disease. So I went to the doctor to get a test, and he told me actually I didn't have Lyme, but I had Epstein-Barr virus. I didn't even know what Epstein-Barr virus was. And he said, well, it's related to mono. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I know that because I had it in college and I had it really bad. So he said, there's no cure for it. And you just have to go home and take it easy. And I was like, my goodness, that felt like a death sentence. But I did what he said. I went home, and for a month, I took it easy. And I thought, well, I'll just see if I can rest up and get rid of this. But I didn't. And I was getting worse. So that led me to do some research on my own. And it was through that research that I found you. Thank goodness. Yeah, it's changed my life.
Oh, fantastic. It's odd that the doctor would say, no, you don't have Lyme. When you present,
It is.
that is so, honestly, it's pleasing to me, because if you had have been told you had Lyme, there was a whole protocol that you would have been put on.
I would have been on antibiotics immediately.
And it's exhausting, isn't it? When you present with those kind of symptoms, that kind of exhaustion, and not really knowing how you can get back to who you are. What do you do? What do you do other than go to the medical system, go to the doctor, go to, we're not taught these things. We're not taught to come back to our bodies and learn how to trust them again. So what are you dealing with now? Like, do you have symptoms that are decreasing? Are there some that are gone? Where are you at?
I have a little of all of that. I would say that my most upsetting symptom during this whole time has been the fatigue. And I think that was because, I think it's an issue for everybody, but I was really active. I used to be very active, and it was like stopped me in my tracks. So my life as I knew it didn't exist anymore. And I would say that my fatigue has, for the first 6 months or so, it was about the same. In the last 6 months, it has gotten much better. And I still have days when I'm really tired, but I see the light at the end of the tunnel. So when I get up now and have breakfast, I no longer have the immediate urge to go back to bed, which to me, that was a huge, huge thing. And now I can usually make it until around 3:00 in the afternoon. On certain days, I just feel like I hit the wall and I have to stop. But the old me would have pushed through that and would just said, you can do this. You just keep on going, Susan. And the new me says, no. Judy says, you got to respect your body and listen to your body. So now I've changed my schedule so that I do my meditation in the afternoon. And I know that's when I hit the wall. So I do my meditations lying down now. I used to always try to do them sitting up, and I was never comfortable. And now I have the best meditations. I do them horizontally. It gives me that little bit of a break in the afternoon when I'm so tired, and I wake up refreshed. So that's the fatigue piece that I'm still dealing with. The skin was another issue for me because I seem to detox a lot through my skin. And my appearance has changed dramatically. And I got all these things on my face. You know, you wake up and I'd have these and I even got this rash broke out, and it lasted 2 weeks and then it was magically gone. So I have learned that these symptoms come and then I have to be patient and then they go. But the skin piece has definitely improved. Don't feel like sandpaper like they did for the first year. So there's a few symptoms that I still have, but they're so much better. Some that have gone away completely. I had urinary tract infections that just sort of popped up out of nowhere. Different things like that. I always used to get chronic sore throats, and I rarely get them anymore. I really nothing that's serious. I'll get a little twinge of a sore throat sometimes. It's just teensy tiny dry throat, really. But that's a major change. And I think that you helping me with my diet, I learned that even though I always thought I ate a healthy diet, and I probably did compared to the average American, I was eating absolutely the wrong way for Epstein-Barr virus. And I used to love eggs. I ate a lot of dairy. I ate a lot of chicken. And I have cut all those things out for the last year and a half, and sore throats go away. Isn't that magical? So, I think you've taught me that the symptoms are going to be there. It's my body talking to me. It's telling me that it's working on different areas. The one thing the symptom that I had that was the most difficult to grasp was I would get these numb, tingling feelings in my legs. Initially, it was in my legs and my feet, and particularly my right foot, which is the foot that I had my surgery on. I wake up in the morning and I'd walk like I was a drunk person because the bottoms of my feet felt kind of fat and they were just kind of numb. And now I've learned that was my body healing. And I used to have this horrible, ugly scar where my incision was. It's gone now. And I still have a little bit of the tingling sensation in my feet, not nearly what it was. And I used to wake up and it would be so painful. And I would put my legs up on the wall, like you suggested. And I would be there sometimes I fall asleep that way and I suddenly wake up. But I think that helped. And now I feel it moving to other parts of my body. I feel it more in like where my organs are. So I've just learned that I have to just be patient with that and know that it's working.
It's not an easy path. It's not the quick fix. It's the releasing hundreds of years of accumulation. You know, even science shows us that toxic heavy metals pass the placental barrier, or chronic dehydration can be passed from generation to generation. So it's a matter of knowing that turning that around takes a little time, but the time it takes is so worth it, because then you've reversed that and you're not just suppressing something for a little while. And as soon as you quit suppressing, it comes back. We're go of these things for a lifetime. Mm-hmm. Doing what's hard so life can be really enjoyable and easier. So when you were going through, say we come back to the practical pieces of it, and you're working through the program, were there parts that you found difficult? Were there parts that you found hard?
I think initially just the diet was difficult. Initially, it was just a wholesale change on how I eat, and not necessarily the ingredients that were so different, but I realized that I used a lot of olive oil in my cooking. And I love to cook. I worked in the food industry. Food was very much a part. I worked in the food and wine industry. That was very much a part of who I was as a person. And suddenly I couldn't follow any recipes, and I couldn't do it initially because it was such a disconnect for me. So I learned that, okay, just steam your food when you're cooking it, and I learned that my blender was my best friend, and it was very overwhelming. But now I've got a rhythm to it. It's got a routine, and it no longer feels like it's so time consuming because I can do it faster. Because before I was like having to think, okay, now let's see what supplement am I taking after my lemon juice water? And now it's just a routine. And I think that for anybody doing this, I'm sure that must be overwhelming, and that's like it was for me. And I guess it's just good to know that it does come down to a routine, and you get a rhythm in it, and it gets easier. So the food preparation was hard for me. Eating in social situations was really difficult for me. And I didn't do it very much, just for the reason I turned down a lot of social engagements just because I didn't know how to cope with it. And I felt guilty telling people that I couldn't eat what they were preparing. And I wasn't comfortable bringing my own meal because it made me stand out. And I don't like to be noticed. I just want to blend in, right? And I didn't want to get out a soapbox or anything. So I just avoided social engagements. And now it's a little bit easier for me. I'm just doing it with family. Initially family, it was difficult because people say, oh, just go off your diet this one time. It's not going to hurt. And that would really upset me. And I think, oh, well, yeah, they did spend all this time cooking this, and I really have to try, eat a little of it. But I don't do that anymore. And I think that you've taught me that I have to respect my own body. And at first I didn't get that 100%. Intellectually, I got it, but I didn't feel it in my body. And now I know that I just can't eat the way everybody else eats. And I don't want to anymore. Before it was like, oh, I wish I could just blend in and eat what they're eating. But now I look at what they're eating and I think, I'm glad I'm not eating that. So that's a change for me.
It's intense, isn't it? Because you see other people struggling with their health and we want to help them. But really, we have to just look after our own self. And healing, really true healing, isn't just physical. It is the emotional, mental, and spiritual. And you're talking about that, where emotionally, you needed to prioritize yourself and what was right for you. And that's hard in our society because we aren't necessarily taught that all the time. Mm-hmm. But you taking that on and really living into that, wow, like, good for you, really.
Yeah. It's an epiphany when you reach that point. And I think it does take time. And I think I almost had to be on the diet for a little while and see some small victories to be able to then trust my body some more, that it was doing right, and that I need to follow your guidance, because I think one of the real gifts of working with you is that you've been there. I mean, you've been here, where we're at. You've been through all this. You've been through most of our symptoms personally. So when you give us guidance on this and how to do it, it's not you picking something out of thin air. I mean, you've walked the talk. And I think that is what makes a difference. And very often we are in our society where the medical community, people that you're working with don't necessarily know what you're going through, but either they've heard or they said they've seen something, or the going mantra is you're going to do this. And I've spent years trying to find different modalities that help me to get better, because I knew I knew there was something wrong and I wasn't right, but nobody could help me. And I think that has been the life changer for me, is working with somebody who understands what it is that I'm going through.
I want to ask you what you found supportive or helpful in the actual program, the online program, and the way that, that we do the group calls. What did you find helpful about those pieces?
Well, the group calls to start had from day one been really valuable to me, because I'm hearing from other people like myself that are having similar symptoms. And sometimes I hear about these symptoms and I think, oh, well, thank goodness I haven't had that. Or, oh, gosh, I hope I never get that. And then, 6 months down the road, guess what? I've got that too. And it passes. And when it happens, it's like, aha, okay, so now I know what this is. And, I can accept it and I know what I need to do, or I need to know where to go to get help, which is in part how great the True Health Tribe Facebook page helps me a lot. And, I can ask you and or the other people who've been in the program longer that have been through what I'm going through, and I can ask a question. And that's really nice because you can't call up your doctor and say, okay, this is what I've got. What do I do? Because they're not going to point me in the right direction. And I think that's a shift that we all are making in this process, is that we are so ingrained to think when something goes wrong, we call the doctor. And I think now we're all learning that there's something bigger than just going to the doctor and this whole thing. And then we have to listen to ourselves. And you're teaching us to go within when things aren't right, go within and ask our body, what's going on. And is this something related to the detox? That's been really valuable to me. I think the other resource that you offer that's been great are the recordings of those calls, of those biweekly calls. I have listened to probably 3 years back now. And it is interesting because we all have the same symptoms, but sometimes they present in a little bit different ways. So listening to them over the years, I get a sense for the nuances of it. And then it's also just plain good reinforcement, because initially it's overwhelming, all the information, and you're trying to process so much. And when I go back and I listen to these calls, and I often do them when I'm taking my walk, when I go outside and take a walk, before I leave, I queue up the next call back that I haven't listened to yet, and I listen to it while I'm walking. And it's really good reinforcement and reminders, because often the same things come up, but they may be presented a little bit different way, or you may present a little more information that time. So collectively, it's really helpful.
Good. Fantastic. The whole reason that I did the online program was because I wanted anyone that wanted to get back to health to have as much support as they needed. And knowing you're not alone, right, makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. I think the other resource that you've provided through participating in the work, that has been really helpful to me too. And I have a lot more to learn about that. But I think that it just works hand in hand. Even if you just take a look at some of the beliefs that we have around wellness and healing, to me, I mean, that was really important for me. And it goes much broader than that with our beliefs around relationships of people and much bigger issues. But even if you just look specifically at the healing and the health beliefs we have, or that I had, that's changing. And I didn't grow up in a family that was holistic in any way. There were medical professionals in my family, and you basically, that's what you did, and you didn't question for the most part. So there was a lot of beliefs there that I think also affect our healing and can provide resistance at the beginning to doing some of these things. I have people saying, oh, well, are you on a balanced diet? You can't be on a balanced diet. You're not eating any meat. And so there's a lot of beliefs out there. And I think the work has helped me to be able to certainly answer those questions internally, but then also to be able to have some answers when I'm put to the test.
I'm so glad you brought that up. It is a very important piece when we're letting go of chronic illness to address the mindset. We don't even realize until we've looked at those pieces how much that contributes to us having difficulty with what we're experiencing in our bodies. Being so frustrated or hurting for so long that we've lost trust in the body. So being able to look at that and adjust or adjust the perception or drop those pieces, it's part of the true health piece. It brings us back to that holistic piece that you're talking about. So I don't want to take too much time today, but if you were to share with others what you thought would be helpful if they were working through this as well.
I am probably healthier right now than I have been in my life. And I think that for anybody that is considering working with you, that would be one thing that I would ask them to consider. Would you like to be healthier than you've ever been before? And I think if somebody had asked me that when I first started, I would have said yes, but I might have thought it was impossible. But there's such a learning curve here. And I knew that when I started this, I was going down the wrong path. My health and everything, Epstein-Barr and what it can manifest in our health in a negative way down the road was so frightening to me. And I knew I did not want to go there. So, and anybody who has been in chronic pain, no matter how long it's been, if it's been even if it's only been for a couple of years, or whether it's been almost your whole lifetime, I think we're all starting to appreciate the quality of life and what it means to be healthy, because we have been faced in so many ways with poor health, and we're seeing it front and center, that what if we don't take care of our bodies, what it can mean. And we're also learning that pharmaceuticals aren't the answer, because people take pharmaceuticals all their life and they still don't get healthy. So this is a completely different approach. And I think that it's not for the faint of heart. I think somebody has to be really committed to their own health and know that this is what they want to do, that the bottom line is you want to get healthier. And if that's the bottom line, then I think you can't go wrong doing this. It'll only be the most amazing gift you ever gave yourself. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you talk about is that we have to, on the emotional and the spiritual side, is loving ourselves. And I think that's a piece that we miss. I miss that. I mean, I kind of approached my life in service to others, always thinking about, and particularly in work, I gave 150% to my work. And I never really thought about the consequences on myself. If it was really stressful or if something needed to go above and beyond, I would do that. But now I see that, that's not very loving of my body. And so you've taught me that too. And I think that there's a lot of life lessons in addition to healing, but there's a lot of life lessons that come out of this whole process that are invaluable.
I really thank you for experience and yourself with us today. And Susan, I'm so excited because it's when you start, you think it's impossible. But then it just gets better and better and better. And the good days get longer, and there's more of them every week. And pretty soon, what you were experiencing, it's not part of your life anymore. So I'm excited to see how much further this takes you and what you get back to in your life. Like pretty soon, I'm sure I'm going to be hearing about, paddleboarding on lakes in Italy or just something really fun.
Yeah.
Rewarding for what you've done, the work you've put in. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me this gift.